I'm Caitlin, and I have a couple questions for you. What is the point of social science? Why are we doing it? What place do our values have? What are we hoping to achieve? Most people would want to suggest that at the end of the day, our research and our theories can somehow help improve the world and can improve people's lives. Coming to terms with how social science goes about this requires coming to terms with the specter of value neutrality, ethical neutrality, and the fact-value distinction. There is a general idea that science is premised upon distancing itself from our values, and that this is central to maintaining the objectivity of the scientific endeavor. Coupled with this is the idea that science is disconnected from moral and political questions altogether. In many ways, value neutrality operates as an attempt to provide insulation to protect science from society and society from science. In extreme forms, it recommends completely insulating the scholar by stressing and cultivating an attitude and practice of complete impersonal detachment. But this is unsatisfying for a few reasons. Firstly, the fact-value dichotomy is leaky. We know that values have a way of seeping into facts and shaping facts. As the familiar line goes, facts are value-laden. For example, theory choice is a value judgment. It is affected by our background assumptions, which include moral and political assumptions, as well as ontological ones. As Elizabeth Anderson has noted, feminist interventions into divorce have yielded richer and more nuanced accounts because they're attentive to more dynamics at work as a result of their political commitments. In short, they produce more thorough and more fruitful explanations. We have suggested that a commitment to realism instead of positivism has similar implications. We need to be reflexive about this, and we need to be able to think critically about our values. Quite simply, theory and values have different epistemic implications. Some are more fruitful than others and yield better theories. If values can negatively affect science, it also stands to reason that certain values have a positive effect in yielding knowledge and should not be insulated from our research. Finally, explanations are never neutral either. They can and often do entail moral and political evaluations. Let's turn to the commonly used example and consider which is the more objective and truthful statement. In World War II, 6 million Jewish people lost their lives. In World War II, 6 million Jewish people were killed. In World War II, 6 million Jewish people were systematically murdered. In fact, the most partisan account is also the most accurate and objective. The goal is not to be neutral or value-free in all respects, but to be true to the object of our consideration and the implications of that. But equally, for better and for worse, facts have a way of seeping into, defining, and implying values, or rather, values tend to be predicated upon facts. Values are fact-laden, and because they appeal to facts, they're open to critique. In short, the attempt at insulation doesn't hold up, and we need to avoid this naive and unhelpful illusion. This has implications for how we approach the normative aspect of social science. And within critical realism, there are two positions. The first position stresses the critical attitude of social scientific research, that social science is concerned with drawing our attention to power structures and structural inequality. The second emphasizes a moral or existential objective and suggests that social science opens up discussions about what it might mean to live a good life. First, let's talk about the critical in critical realism. The critical is not simply a reference to its position about realism. The term critical is also about the stance we take up regarding the realities we uncover in our research. It calls attention to them in hopes of promoting critical reflection and critical leverage in transforming social structures. The goal is structural transformation. On this reading, critical realism is politically charged, operating within the critical theory tradition that emphasizes the centrality of praxis, or the relationship between theorizing and critical practice. In this first approach, The critical in critical realism ends up being mostly deconstructive, uncovering the hidden operations of power and inequality. The second, the morally focused version of critical realism, is slightly different in its emphasis. Many scholars in the critical stream want to take the critique one step further into a position of moral realism. Moral realism wants to suggest that human beings can have genuine knowledge about the conditions under which they flourish, as well as the conditions under which they suffer. In his book, Why Things Matter to People, Andrew Sayer emphasizes that value neutrality leaves us with an image of values being untouched by reason, and as being merely subjective, detached from what kinds of beings that people are, the quality of their relations, their material circumstances, and their well-being. Drawing on the ethics of care, Sayer suggests that social science is able to give us a better idea about the aspects of human beings that should be nurtured, encouraged, and permitted to flourish for their benefit and that of others. While social scientists are rightfully cautious of this move, Sayer suggests that we cannot replace ethics with politics, any more than we can replace politics with ethics. Understanding human needs and wants can provide a foundation for building a better world. It attempts to be reconstructive in its focus. So whether we want to take deconstruction or reconstruction as our primary goal, if one of the principal aspects of critical realism is the revindication of ontology, then we need to understand that ontology is never neutral. It's always tied up with questions of values, politics, and ethics. As Colin White helpfully suggests, and I quote, "Politics is about competing visions of how the world is and how it should be. Every ontology is political. If there were no ontological differences, there would be no politics. As such, understanding the ontological differences that lie at the heart of the competing visions of the world should be the aim of any properly conceived critical discipline."